Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Today's topic is all about gut health. So, essentially, this is the topic that won out this week. I posted DM me or post in the Facebook group what health topic you wanted to learn about, learn more about. And the one that won out was gut health. And in particular, someone writes, I'd like to talk about gut health and balance. So sometimes I think we try so hard to be extreme with our diets, and it often leads to failure. I prefer a balanced approach where I can have things in moderation, but would like to know more about how to approach it. And then they also asked, someone else asked, are there things that you have to stay away from in general? So this is a huge, huge question when it comes to gut health because gut health is so wide, broad, big. When we think of gut health, really the gut and gut functioning is starts in the mouth and goes all the way down to the anus. So literally what's going on in your digestive tract, the gut, we want to look at, you could be talking about, are you having upper GI problems? Is it something that's happening starting in the mouth? Is it something that's starting with the vagus nerve that's maybe not allowing you to swallow properly or innervate the muscles to send food down the esophagus and the rest? So this is like the one of the first parts. Are you having issues there? And even before the mouth, we want to be thinking north to south in general. Brain health. If you have brain problems, neurological issues, Parkinson's, dementia, um, concussions, brain health issues, poor circulation to the brain. This can affect how everything gets innervated in the lower part of the GI tract. So keep that in mind. It's not just gas, bloating, those types of things. What we're going to do in this group is go through all of these different types of details because sometimes we don't put all the pieces together. And even when we go to see our doctors, sometimes all the pieces don't come together. And I'm not even saying that I have all the pieces and answers, but what we're doing with this is really looking for as many pieces to put together, working with practitioners who can really support you in multiple different ways that can bring in lots of different ideas. So now we've already talked about this upper part of digestion and gut health, but then we want to start looking at, okay, well, what's going on mid GI, like right at the stomach, right? And so if the stomach if you're not producing enough stomach acid, we could have lots of gut issues down the line. And we would need to look at why are we not producing enough stomach acid? There are lots of different reasons. There could be H. pylori infection, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, different things that can cause issues. So H. pylori right at the gut level, and that can affect the body's ability to actually produce hydrochloric acid because it damages the cells that produce hydrochloric acid. As we get older, our ability to produce hydrochloric acid decreases. And this is so key because we need hydrochloric acid to break down all of our proteins and to break apart the minerals. And this is really, really important because all those proteins that get broken down to amino acids and then those minerals, we need all of that to be able to make our hormones, our enzymes, our neurotransmitters, so that we feel joyous, so that we don't have anxiety, all these different things. So be thinking about, we just talked about the upper part of gut, mid, and then we want to start thinking about lower. And this is where we're thinking like below the navel, right? So we want to be thinking small intestine, colon, whole nine. And this is where, if you have different issues, a loss of your barrier function, where the lining of the lower GI tract is just basically has little holes in it. You've heard the term leaky gut. This is a non-scientific term to kind of describe that. It's much deeper. The barrier can be breached even before the small intestine and the lower GI can be breached much higher, but we really think about that barrier function down there. And that barrier function is one of the ways that we keep out things from crossing of the barrier, getting into the bloodstream, causing an immune response. So if you're someone that's constantly sniffly, allergies, all kind of things, sometimes the big impetus or what's really causing it is that you have a loss of barrier function. And sometimes just improving that can be game changing. So the other piece with gut function is, again, with that brain issue, the brain and the vagus nerve, if your vagus nerve is not working really well, this is the nerve that really, it innervates the muscles of the entire gastrointestinal tract. And it can get off for a number of different reasons. We won't go into all those details today, but just think about that. But there are exercises that you can do to support it. But if the vagus nerve is not working well, we can end up with lots of constipation and lots of issues at the lower GI that normally we pass through and have elimination, and we're just not having that. So I want you to be thinking about, we're always thinking north to south when we're thinking about gut function and health. The other thing we want to be thinking about, I always like to think, even before we get to the brain, go a little bit higher. The first thing is, can you take a relaxing breath to let your autonomic nervous system get primed and ready for you to be able to take in food and actually digest it properly? So, but I do agree with the person who asked the question. Sometimes we have big extremes. So now that's just thinking about the gut function in kind of those three parts, right? But then now let's go to the next step. There are sets of people that have sensitivities to certain foods. So, and there's certain people that have sensitivity to certain foods at certain points of their lives. For instance, if the barrier function has been breached, you may start having sensitivities to foods that you never had sensitivities to before. So keep that in mind. Sometimes just sealing up that barrier gets rid of some of these sensitivities. Then you have other layers where maybe the sensitivity is actually, causing, triggering antibodies where we're breaking down tissue. That's deeper. And this is where we want to remove these types of foods from the diet. And even when there's a sensitivity, we want to remove those foods for a period of time, seal up and heal the digestive tract or the gut, and then reintroduce them slowly and see how well you do. So this is the part where, you might meet someone, they're like, I'm gluten-free, I'm vegetarian, I'm lactose-free, all these things. They may really legitimately need to do that if they're having symptoms every time they eat those types of foods. So a big thing is to remove them for a while, figure out what is causing the problem. Is it an autoimmunity? Is it just the sensitivity because of loss of barrier function? Is there a low-grade chronic infection, maybe some small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? For a lot of people, having those overgrowths or yeast infections, yeast overgrowth or candida, you can be very sensitive to lots of different foods that ordinarily, when it's cleaned up, you're not. So gut function is very, very pivotal for all other health aspects. But what I also want you to think about is, in addition to, some people need to be gluten-free, lactose-free, casein-free. So casein is the protein that's in dairy, but it cross-reacts with the gluten receptor. So for some people, they actually have to remove dairy and gluten because they're sensitive to gluten, and it may even show up, but they may still be triggered by dairy because of the protein being able to fit into that same and trigger that same receptor. So keep that in mind. Another place where we want to think about are these foods that we call FODMAPs. And these are certain sugars that are in really healthy foods that we typically eat. So if you're someone that the healthier you build your diet, like you're eating tons of vegetables, whole grains, beans, all these things, but the worse you feel, you're eating tons of onions, garlic. The more you eat it, the worse you feel. 9 times out of 10, you probably have some level of sensitivity to FODMAPs. And I would even say you may even have some type of overgrowth somewhere that needs to be cleaned up. But this is where testing is important. So you can go and actually get some tests done with your primary care. You could also get some functional lab tests done. We do all of these where we can actually see what's going on in your digestive tract, and then start to clean things up. And then you could also do trial and error, right? So there are things, the trial and error is where you're not having to pay for tests, but you do an elimination meal plan, and you do that for a while. You see how you how well you do, how your body adjusts. Are you not having the symptoms you were having? And then we do some cleanup within your body. And then we reintroduce food slowly, little by little. And then work from there step by step. So essentially, we have assessments that we do, clinical assessments that we do, where we can really look at symptomatically what's going on with you and go step by step into what we need to do to correct it. So we do have a comprehensive assessment that we do. We also do a metabolic assessment form where we go through all the different organ systems from the colon down to gut function, stomach, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, the whole nine, thyroid, all that. So we look at all those things. And then we can also do, again, some additional lab testing to really get to some root causes. Another really important thing to stress when it comes to gut function is what's going on with all the microbes in the gut and on the body. And so the more we can make that a robust system, build that up, and the better most people are. So I didn't want to go into details because there's so many different ways to look at it, but I'm going to leave it there and we will dive deeper into gut function. I will probably create another short video that goes over things that some of the biggest triggers to causing digestive problems and gut issues. But let's leave it there because we couldn't go really, 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 really deep. And I don't want to go super, super, super deep. But I do want you to have this information. Reach out to me if you want more detailed information, if you want consultation to actually see where are you on the spectrum, if you want to fill out the metabolic assessment form. We do something where we can just go over and do an optimal lab review for you, the whole nine. So I'm excited. Reach out to me if you have any additional questions. And thank you so much for asking. And this was Wellness Wednesday, Gut Function. I am going to be featuring some key nutrients, supplements, herbs, the whole nine that you can use to improve gut function. I'll be featuring those on Friday. So tune in. I'll have a link for you and some documents, and you'll be able to try some of them out and see if it works for you. So I like to work from lifestyle-based things you can do. So it might be some breathing exercises on down to some foods you can make and teas you can make, all the way down to supplements you can buy. So you have the whole gamut. You have lots of time and not a lot of money, you're gonna make the things from scratch. If you have more time or you had a lot of money, not so much time, you might want to go the supplement route, or you can do combinations. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Talk to you. Bye-bye.